Hello, me again with another card creation video. Today I'm going to create a one layer Christmas card with a stamp set from Sweet Poppy Stencils. This is the Poinsettia stamp set. I've already pre-stamped this onto some masking paper and cut it out. This is just a sticky back thin paper. I have a 5" by 7" Bockingford hot press card blank, and I have pre-run this through my die cutting machine with this creative die set from Black called Textural. It's not quite big enough to go down a 7" card, so just run it through a couple of times. It's a repeat pattern, so you can just line it up again and run it through. I have my Ink on 3 fade out ink pad. I have some Zig clean colours in olive green, Carmine red, a deep red, and my Wild Honey Distress marker. I haven't got Tear at the moment, but I'm also going to be using a white gel pen. My pot of water, and I'm just soaking my brush, drying it off a couple of times to prime it ready for painting with. So just get started with the stamping. A little trick I like to do is to remove the stamp from the acetate sheet that it comes on and use the printed image to see exactly where I want the stamped image to be. When I'm happy, I just line up the stamp onto the acetate sheet . And close the lid, pick the stamp up, and then remove the acetate sheet, and the stamp is in exactly the position that you want it to be. Just doing a couple of impressions. So cover the image with your masking paper. And using the carrier sheet again, find out where you want the next stamped image to be. And line your stamp up again on it, on top of the acetate. See if you can find the right way that it goes. And then the same again at the top of the card. Yeah, first time. So that's the image all stamped, ready to paint. So remove your masking paper, and the flower that I stamped first is on top of the two that I stamped afterwards. So I just have some kitchen paper here ready for blotting my painting, and my water ready for blending. I'm going to start with the leaves and use the olive green. So I'm putting the pen straight to the image where the leaf touches the petals of the poinsettia. So the darkest colour where it touches the leaf above it. And with the damp paintbrush, just blend out that colour. If you think you've gone too dark in some areas, just dampen your paintbrush again, dry it, paint over it again and blot it with kitchen paper, and that will remove some of the colour. I'm just going to do all the leaves that are green first. I'll just paint a few and then skip to them all being painted. You don't want to see me painting every single green leaf. It's the same thing, I'm just laying the colour straight from the pen down where the darkest area of the leaves are, which is where it touches the leaf above it. If it overlaps, it'll create a shadow, so the darkest colour down where the shadows are going to be, and then blend it out with water to get a lighter shade of green. And if by magic all the leaves are painted. So I'm going in to do the red parts of the leaves, which is with the Carmine red first. I always start with the leaves that are the furthest back in the flower, so the darkest colour down again where the leaf above it is, and then blend that out with water. Your paintbrush needs to be barely wet, just dry it on kitchen paper after every time you dip it in your water. I will paint the whole of this middle flower and then fast forward it so all three are done. They're all painted exactly the same way. But I will complete this one to show you first and then fast forward the video so you don't have to watch me paint all 3 flowers. So I'm just working my way around and doing the outside leaves first. I'm trying not to paint a leaf that is next to one that I've just previously painted. I just need to give it a couple of minutes to dry before you paint another leaf next to it, otherwise the colour could blend and spread into each other. So when you start painting a leaf that is the next one up, the darkest shade in the centre and the lightest shade needs to be where you have already put your previous darker shade down on the leaf below that. To get the illusion of it being a 3D flower, you need to have light and shade. So a highlight next to where your shadow is will give it a 3D effect. I have speeded this part of the video up a bit so it doesn't get too boring. I don't normally paint this fast. So like this leaf, if you have darker leaf underneath both sides of this petal, just put your darker colour down the centre of that leaf and blend out both sides so you've got a lighter shade on both sides of that leaf. the same with this one. So these 5 leaves on the top of the flower, it's just a tiny bit of colour down the centre of each one, and then blend those out at each side to have a lighter shade. The same on all them ones on the top. I'm going to do the centre of the poinsettia now, just with the fatter side of the distress marker, just little taps all over the centre. So this is the deep red, and I'm just going to add some darker shading around each of the leaves, and then just blend that out with the water. You just need a very small amount of this, otherwise it will just take over the whole of the flower. It's just little bits under the petals that are on top of another petal or leaves. So we've put some shadow in, so after this the next thing to do is to put some highlight in, and for that I'm going to use a white gel pen. My preferred white gel pen is a Uniball Signal one. I use these ones a lot and never really had a problem with them. You do need to make sure that what you are putting the pen on top of is completely dry before you put the pen on top, otherwise it will just not work. So I'm putting this where just little scribbles where your top leaves are, so where you want your lighter shades to be, just little scribbles of this white gel pen. And then I'm going to use a clean damp paintbrush to blend that white pen out as well, so you don't see the pen lines basically. You need to make sure your paintbrush isn't too wet for this, just barely damp. And any other petal that sits on top of another petal, so you want the light shade to be next to the dark shade. So as I said earlier, it's going to skip to all 3 flowers painted in a few minutes, just so you don't get bored of watching me paint all 3 flowers. They're all painted exactly the same way. I'm just going to put some white dots in the center as well. So just white dots in this last one. So next thing, I'm just going to stamp a sentiment on this one. I'm going to use the same stamps that come with the Poinsettia. I'm using Versafine Onyx Black ink pad for my words. So I've got Christmas and greetings. And you could just leave it like that, but for me, wouldn't be a Christmas card without any flakes of chunky white embossing enamel. So this one's no different. Just sprinkling it on. It just adds a little bit of extra texture to the card. Just had it a little bit thick in that corner, just patting it with my finger to remove some. And the same on the sentiment, don't want any white flecks where the words are. Now you don't need to use any form of ink pad to adhere this to the card. It will just heat it up and just melt onto the card and stay there. You need a gentle heat gun for this, and start off quite high just to warm it up, and then as you can see that it starts to melt, get closer and closer to the card. If you don't have a gentle heat gun, you can use the more powerful ones, but it's best to heat it up from underneath the card to melt the powder. Otherwise you'll just blow them all over the place and you will not have any left. So that's the card just about complete, and it took start to finish about an hour and a half to make this card. So as usual, any questions, pop them in the comment box. I will list all the products I've used in the description. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell for notifications of any future videos that I could do. There you go. Thank you for watching. Bye.